40% interest rate as, unattractive, But when you have Islamic financing model that goes on with them as a partnership, they tend to get on board, that they're more comfortable with that sort of financing structure. So blended finance approach with likes of what we're doing with development finance and the banks, Islamic financing model, it's a winner, especially amongst smallholder farmers. And then I dare to say that majority of the smallholder farmers that we've interacted with, majority of them are up north, and they are very used to this sort of Islamic financing model. And there are a lot of Islamic finance banks that are cropping up, Jais Bank, Taj, Alternative Finance that I've also mentioned. So those are the sort of models. I know there's been a lot of talk about crowd funding. In fact, crowdfunding in agriculture started far back, if I recall, as at 2005. It had already started. But then what you see is that it's not structured. After 2 years, you hear that the founder, has packed up, and flown to Canada or something like that. You see investors' money, everybody's crying. So I think for crowdfunding finance, luckily, the SEC is regulating that sector now, and has also identified that crowdfunding is a potential avenue for bringing investors into agribusiness especially. So SEC is doing something about regulating that, and I think we'll continue to see a lot of crowdfunding models, crowdfunding institutions crop up. They can take a certain hectare of land, finance it. They can finance seeds, they can finance tractors, for example. So there's a lot of models, and I think, like Jimovia would say, until we get the interest rates down, which is really the thing that has to be done, that will have a systemic cover, for all that. We need to sort of build our own infrastructure around that, our own model. And I think the three key areas are the blended finance, Islamic financing, which is a winner, and it has been tried and tested, and smallholder farmers loves it, and then the crowdfunding aspect. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. I know you can go on and on and on the financing side of the discussion. Thanks, Tony. Just to follow up on that, Felicia, we all agree that we have so many people within the subsistence space of the agribusiness sector in the country, right? And these are the kind of people that actually, should I say, actually need this money we are talking about, the finance we are talking about. They do this all their lives, year in, year out, with little to nothing to show for it and all of that. During harvest, they have bumper harvest. Before they can't preserve it, it gets destroyed, and of course the cycle starts again to another harvest cycle. But how can we get them ready? Because there is no really any kind of sense in making sure that they do all of that hard work and it doesn't translate to money in their pocket. And the money in their pocket means that they're actually having access to funding to scale up, produce massively, then the money can be actually make sense to them. How can we get them ready, Felicia? Maybe talk about the issues they have, that doesn't make them really attractive to available funding, and how can we then get them ready?
Thank you very much, Taiwo. Okay, yeah, for the smallholders or the small scalers, as the case may be, that sector or that bracket has always been a challenge. And if you look at development all over the world right now, it's so difficult to get a lot of things done when you are small. And so one of the things that I will propose is that smallholders needs to come together to form what we call cooperatives. Because when you talk about smallholders, you have issues of getting your product to the market all by yourself. The economies of scale is against you looking at the small the small volume of what you produced. But in a situation whereby we are able to have a lot of smallholders coming together to form cooperatives, then cooperatives can stand as a bigger platform to access finance, to access market, to go into industrialization, and so many other things. And you also discover that a lot of our financial institutions are having challenges relating to the small holders, as the case may be. Why? Because number one, there's the issue of data. Finance institutions wants to relate with you, analyze your business, understand your business, and how for them to do that is for them to be able to relate with your data, your operational data, production data. A lot of the smallholders today, or our smallholders today, do not even have those basic operational figures that finance institutions can relate with. I mean, very simple thing. You see someone approach you and say, oh, uncle, oh, bros, help me. I want to do this. I'm doing this. Okay, and you begin to ask basic questions about his input, his output, and he could not provide it. Not because he's not actually doing the business, but just because he has not been putting those things to paper and documenting things. So when you want to help such, it becomes difficult to know how to help him, to what level you should help him, what should be your level of contribution. Beyond that, you also want to know what are the risks that he has been facing in his business. You could not track that. And because of that, you are a bit handicapped. So, first thing that I will say, which is also key for me, is that smallholders need to keep doing what they are doing, but they need to come together and let's form cooperatives. And cooperatives can do a lot of things because looking at the number of people in cooperatives, of players in cooperatives, can do a lot of things with other cooperatives. Bigger cooperatives can synergize with industry, and they can also synergize with government. And that's one key way I think we could go about it. If you look at it, there's a lot of perceived risk around agribusiness by finance institutions. Yes, we call it perceived risk, but the risks are real. They are real. That's just the truth. There could be crop failure at any point in time. There could be infestation, and all your crop or your livestock can go down the drain. And so when those things exist, the financial institution wants to see that, okay, if I'm going to finance this business, do I have somebody covering my back? And that is the insurance people. So when smallholders don't even have insurance, to secure whatever he's doing, it's difficult for financial institutions to even come in. But when the smallholders comes together into cooperatives, bigger entities, then it's easier for insurance to come in and for financial institutions to also come in. Thank you.
Thank you, Felicia. You said so many things about getting the smallholders farmer, making them attractive, packaging themselves very well that they can actually interact with corporate organizations, right? I don't know if there's anything that Bastian wants to add around that trajectory.
First of all, let me thank you all for being here, and I'm very privileged to be part of this panel. It's my honor. Coming into that, as we were speaking mainly about attracting the venture capitals, attracting the impact financing, creating already impact investment, creating opportunities and platforms for the public to be able to access this finance. I would like to take it from another angle, which is mainly touching already my organization, and what can we do to help the sector for improving on this. Of course, as we all know, the practices and exercises relating to the development and innovation of this sector is a very big part that will attract already these kind of investments. And mechanization, digitalization, driving the input analytics driven by the AI is now becoming a very big must that we need to look at with a very, very big interest to make sure that it will create the opportunity for everyone who is using these all means to build the scalable models build the business cases that will be acceptable for all kind of private equities which are interested in investment into the agribusiness sector, as well as the financial institutions that will be more interested having their role into that. Of course, this is coming with a social corporate responsibility that is needing already the technical expertise from these organizations to develop the people to be able to meet these requirements and meet and attract this kind of financing coming into the sector and the country.
Thank you, Bassem. Thank you. Tade, in all of this, the more value we unlock, and of course, from the bottom, the better for the country. And so how do we get, I'm still trying to push further on this bankability of the smallholder farmers. How can we get them there?
Thank you very much, and let me say thanks to the ABC and Taiwo as well. The disadvantage of speaking last on panels is everybody has said everything. You are then stuck trying to find a nexus. As far as smallholder farmers are concerned, I'm going to introduce the S word that I've seen everyone avoid, which is subsidies. We cannot speak to smallholder farming, creating value, financing, and providing the right inputs, whether it's technological or mechanical, without the need to understand that at that level, there's a need to support that particular segment of our agricultural industry. There's a need for government to play an active part. And without doubt, we've seen a significantly better approach in the last two administrations. Anthony's group, for example, is one great example. The agricultural processing zones are an amazing innovation. But ultimately, what we need to find is that nexus between the very high level where the blended financing sits, the very technical level where the financial partners and businesses in financing, in investments sit, and bringing that to the cooperatives that Folusho has suggested, ensuring that there's a point that they all meet. That point today can only be driven by the government. As much as we would like to say, let agriculture be a commercial endeavor, we need it to become a business for it to be sustainable and get to the scale we want, there's still some work to be done to get the average smallholder farmer in that cooperative of maybe 10 or 20 people somewhere in Sokoto State to the point where they are speaking directly to Alternative Bank or Jay's Bank or Sterling Bank or the Agricultural Development Fund. And that is where the government's role is. So we require that connection between the government actively, and Folusho said something about data, actively enumerating these smallholder groups, not individuals now, because the commercial entities are more comfortable lending to organizations. The businesses are more comfortable investing in organizations. So the government has a role to play in bridging that divide. As much as all the agricultural businesses and investors have invested in Nigeria, whether it's in the value chain or in the ecosystem, there's still a need to bring the smallholder farmers, and it's unfortunate McDonald has left, because they, along with Baba Gona, probably have vastly more experience in this. They have consolidated large swaths of smallholder farmers, provided them with agricultural inputs, financing, but ultimately the bridge to that low interest finance that can unlock the opportunity within the Nigerian agricultural industry still needs the government to play a part. The government's part is, somebody spoke about insurance. There's no bigger insurer than the government. The government's part is saying, as an investor, make this available. We have XYZ structure in each state linked to XYZ number of cooperatives. that guarantees that your investment does not disappear. We have XYZ structure with this number of verticals in terms of industry, whether it's the Mantrax of the world or the USEX of the world, that drives the input into the agricultural system and ultimately drives the outputs. So the farmer's job is just to grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Tade. So Basem, you never can tell, might have people with deep pockets, here this morning, or maybe listening to us online and want to invest. So I want you to bring your business, specialization into play, and you are doing a pitch to invest in agribusiness in Nigeria. If you are to make that pitch to an investor, what would be, think about the numbers of people we have in Nigeria, approximately 230 million people. Okay? What should be of interest if you're going to invest in agribusiness?
Actually, this is a very interesting part and area. Everyone looks at the market in Nigeria, looks at the opportunity there. It's very encouraging for everyone with the current measures, the current facts on ground, the current volume of opportunity. It's a very big one. A lot of areas that are big areas for improvement, big areas for interest, and a lot of opportunities in there into relation to this industry. I can name as much as you see already from cold chain logistics, from export-oriented hopes, agro-processing. A lot of areas are there for investment, and most of these areas are having, each of them into deep details, are having lots of opportunities into that. And actually it's not only the direct investment, as well as the services can be provided there. The kind of business can create a very big number of opportunities for employment, vocational improvement, development of the youth, women, and all kinds of streams in the society can be involved in. It's a very big opportunity for that. I've just named like 3 sectors that I see as very big ones with the potential, and I can give you already the storage itself is a very huge opportunity for everyone. And of course, as Mantrax, as a part of this value chain with our services, we provide the solutions, the power solutions, mechanizations, digitalization even. We are trying to help the sector from that angle.
Thanks a lot, Basem. I don't know, Tade, is there anything that crossed your mind in addition to what Basem has said around potential area of investment, with high return on investment from the agribusiness space in Nigeria?
So the agribusiness sector in Nigeria, my personal view is it represents the biggest opportunity for Nigeria as a country. Economically, if we look at both the global trends as far as sustainability, climate change, the drive towards green energy, and all those trends are concerned, Nigeria sits in a very unique position. And by that token, because our base is very low, our ceiling is extremely high. A key example, for example, to cite is our current yield rates are among the lowest 25 percentile in the world. Yield rate, whether it's in wheat, is in maize, is in soybean, and it's not a function of the land that we are so proud of. We have amazing soil in Nigeria, extremely arable. So what it means is investing in just the basics, improving the yield, creating a value chain that provides storage, processing for what is being produced will give significantly higher yield in Nigeria and to a larger extent sub-Saharan Africa than you would find anywhere else in the world. It's about getting the right kind of inputs, bringing the right kind of stakeholders to the table, ensuring the right kind of policies in place to drive all these measures to give the return on investment. A lot of multinationals that are in Nigeria and continue to operate in Nigeria, Flour Mills is the same age as Nigeria, Unilever is significantly older than Nigeria, PZ Cussons is maybe twice as old as Nigeria, all within this ecosystem continue to do so because there's significant return on investment. That is despite the, like I said, very low base that we're operating in. So improving just one segment, the quality of yield can double the return on investment for any ag investor. And that consider all the other elements in processing, in storage, in exports, in financing. So there are very many segments, and it represents one of the biggest opportunities for investment in the world.
Thanks, Tade. Felicia, let me come to you. All of these things that we're talking about, there's going to be a bit of challenge to be able to achieve what we're trying to get to or achieve for the country. If you look at the recent GDP, you see agriculture doing about 26 to 28% or thereabouts of the contribution to GDP, right? Which is still, of course, there's still room for us to scale that up further. You've talked about the arable land that we have, massive arable land that we have in Nigeria, about 37 million hectares of arable land that we talk about. But capacity is equally very important. Growing up as a small boy, somewhere in Ondo State, you see young graduates with brand new motor bicycle. They go into the interlands, they call them agricultural extension workers or services workers or what have we. Actually teach those farmers how to cultivate, how to produce crop. These are young graduates, and that's what they do, right? So what role can an educational institution play in transforming the agribusiness of today? More so that people don't want to perhaps even study anything that to do with agriculture science any longer or agri-economics, okay? So Felicia, what can we do to take care of that?
Thank you, Taiwo. Yes, that's a very interesting one, and it's been a very old discussion. Today we have in some of our wall of universities, permit me to say maybe some courses that very soon those courses probably will have to be put in the museum because of their relevance to the economic development of nowadays. Not only that, we still have in our universities today projects, or what do we call it? Projects, yes, that has no direct or no link with industry or what the industry needs. So it's a high time for a kind of connection between the industry and educational institutions for industry to understand what actually for tertiary institutions to understand what actually industries are looking for. And until the tertiary institutions understands that, there will always be a disconnect on what we can provide that will be relevant and that can actually drive economics. And that is why today we find a lot of, unlike those times you mentioned, find a lot of graduates just suddenly find themselves in a job place and they are kind of confused to say, what do I do? What do I need to do? I need to wind them. I wind a lot of them to say, okay, this is what to do, because there's a disconnect from the atmosphere where they are coming from into the business atmosphere. So we need to do a lot of capacity development, and we do not need for them to become professional. We need to start doing that right from the schools by understanding what does the industry need. That is one. Secondly, I'd like to touch on a particular point that my organization does, and that is US Soybean Export Council. We have a particular initiative we call it the Soy Excellence Center, what we do in Soil Excellence Center is that we have identified 4 areas in livestock production where people can be trained better on what they are doing. And those areas are poultry, aquaculture, feed milling, and swine production. And we chose that area for the fact that we discovered that we need to tackle malnutrition and people need to produce more animal protein. And so in that program, we trained mid to early to mid-career professionals on how to do what they are doing better. Either they are raising poultry, they are raising aquaculture, or they are beef feed milling, or they are raising pigs, and we intend to do more of that. And good enough, I have in the house today, Dr. Michael David. Can you just wave to the house? Yes, thank you, Dr. Michael David. He's our center lead that oversees that Soil Excellence Center. And U.S. organizations, U.S. farmers are the one behind that program, and is at no cost to any Nigerian that goes through that program. As of today, we've trained, I think, over 4,700 trainees at 0 cost. These are the kind of opportunity that we want our people to avail themselves, to go through training, expose themselves to capacity development, and when we do that and capacity is improved, then they get better doing what they are doing. Not only that, they are able to produce at a cheaper cost. Knowing fully well today that when we produce, we are not only just producing for our local consumption, we are producing for international markets. So when our production is done, if the price is not comparable or competitive with what is available internationally, then that product can only be consumed in Nigeria, because it's only in Nigeria that you're going to have the market for it. So part of the things in our capacity development is to teach our people to do what they are doing better, to do it much more cheaper, and to bring in a lot of efficiency and effectiveness in what they do. So I would say that agricultural extension, that is the word, is very crucial for knowledge transfer, for technology adoption, and for capacity building. Thank you.
Thank you, Felicia. Thank you, Felicia. I recall, when you talk about international markets, producing for international markets, I recall years ago when, as a country, we sent the first consignment of yam to Europe, and there was a lot of fanfare and celebration and dancing and all of that, only for the consignment to get over there and then turn back. So capacity building is key, and we just need to get things done to the right quality that will be acceptable. Thanks, Felicia. Tony, perhaps people don't know what role the Nigeria Commodity Exchange is trying to play and the kind of turnaround I can bring to the table. I see it as a game changer. I was discussing with you earlier on today. I was just talking about what is happening in East Africa, the likes of Nairobi, Commodity Exchange, Rwanda, and all of that. What is in there for Nigeria farmers or for Nigeria people, agripreneurs or agribusiness practitioners that the Nigeria Commodity Exchange is bringing to the table to turn around the corner for everyone?
No, thank you, Taiwo, again. Now, so I've listened very closely, and I believe that Tade sort of hit the nail on the head, that there needs to be a bridge, between all these discussions, which only government, can actually play. Now, Nigeria Commodity Exchange is actually a public limited company, wholly owned by the Nigerian government. So although it's a government agency, it is also a sort of a private, it needs to behave like a private company. So that's the sweetest spot to be in. So which means that when we are talking about agribusiness, Nigeria Commodity Exchange is actually at the forefront of driving investor confidence, through the capital markets. I want to speak to the agribusiness, the capital market side first. Recently, the ISA, Investment and Securities Act 2025, was passed. And commodity business, commodity exchange took a major part of that act. Now, one of the issue is post-harvest losses. I don't want to dabble into production because it's not my remit. Today, Nigeria suffers between 30 to 40% post-harvest losses. So if nothing is done and we solve for post-harvest losses, it means that our production can jump by 40%, you know? And like Bassen was also identifying areas of investment. It means that as an entrepreneur now, if you say, I'm going to solve for post-harvest losses, you know, it's estimated that we have between 3 billion to 10 billion USD gap just by solving post-harvest losses. You know, so building warehouses. When you go up north, you know, during harvest, and you see the way farmers store their products. Some store it under their bed, you know, and you see when rain falls, there, you know, some spread it out so that sunshine can dry it and all that. The next thing, rain starts falling, you know, and you are back to square one again. So solving for post-harvest losses is really the core aspect, you know, the sort of a foundational aspect to getting us into capital markets. So when you solve for post-harvest losses, it means that there's warehouse infrastructure. And it's not just any warehouse. The warehouse has to have a lab or assaying equipment, which means that when it comes in, we're able to test and immediately deliver the quality of that product. Is it grade 1? Is it grade 2? Is it grade 5? You know, is it animal grade? You know? So once that is done, we also have the ability to build a warehouse that you can then sort all these products and then categorize them into standard formats that can then be traded officially on the exchange. Now, once you put your product in the warehouse, you need collateral managers, you know. Collateral managers have to be different from the warehouse owners, you know, so that there's the conflict of interest is removed, you know. So when you say I've brought in 5 metric tons of maize, it's actually 5 metric tons, and it's grade 1, it's actually grade 1. Now, I'm just speaking to this foundational level because investors will not invest in commodities business if it is not standardized, if they are not sure of what they are investing in. You know, so they need to know that in this warehouse, you said there's 100 metric tons there, is grade 1. That's what they are investing in. And the ISA speaks to warehouse receipting system. The warehouse receipting system is actually the game changer for all of this in the agribusiness level because it ensures that trading can happen. You know, flour mills can pass on their warehouse receipts to Nestle if they don't want it. It means it becomes a tradable instrument. You know, it's like when you buy a land, they give you a certificate of occupancy. You know, it gives you that right of ownership. So delivery does not have to happen. You know, you can just use it. And once warehouse receipt is enabled, the agro processors, the farmers, and the farmer cooperative or large farmers can then begin to trade what we call derivatives, you know, forward contract, futures, and options, you know. So that's the agribusiness side. And if you imagine that this works very well, a lot of money can be raised on the floor of Nigeria Commodity Exchange through the market, you know. Pension funds waiting for this restructuring so that they can come in, you know, and start investing in the commodity space. You know, a lot of investors are worried that the agribusiness is not de-risked enough. The role that Nigeria Commodity Exchange is trying to de-risk that aspect. And, you know, you have to follow the money. Once you de-risk it and investors see, oh, this is the traceability for the money, they'll put in their money. Then that goes back to the production, you know. So the production, there's no country in this world, I don't think there is, especially the developed country, that doesn't do subsidy, you know. So subsidy would eventually back. But in the past, we had political farmers, you know. You put subsidy, you put $1 billion, half of it goes to the senator controlling the whatever, you know, and you say you are doing a farming. That's not farming, you know. So we need to sort of clean up the chain, the value chain first. Then the subsidy would then start coming in, you know. And the subsidy can come in different forms. One that the Nigeria Commodity Exchange is discussing is guaranteeing minimum prices at the farm gate, you know. And for you to guarantee minimum prices at the farm gate, you need to have data, you know, like Mr. Fala was saying earlier. Once you have data, we calculate the EOP, that's the cost of production, with you and it's standardized. It means that farmers come in, the exchange is already present at the farm gates, not the middlemen anymore. Because those guys are buccaneers, their margins are, crazy. So because we want to make sure that the farmers earn a living wage for what they are producing. That is the first stage of agribusiness. So once you do that, it now transcends towards the value chain, into the warehouse receipting system, into trading, and then pension funds and capital markets. Me and you will log in into the platform, we'll buy and we'll trade the commodities. So it makes everything very clean. Now, for Nigeria Commodity Exchange to be able to get this, we are focusing on 5 key thematic areas. One that is primary is the infrastructure, like I've just spoken to. Infrastructure deficit is a big deal. We have like 2 million metric tons of warehousing, and we are producing close to 40 million metric tons of grains. By the time you even improve the post-harvest, you increase again. So you need warehouses, proper warehouses. Nigeria Commodity Exchange cannot do it, but luckily, we're going to start it. So we've established a fund, to do that, to build model warehouses so that private investors like you can see what a model warehouse looks like. So we lead, at that forefront. Then the second thematic area is technology. In order to build a national warehousing receipting system, we're embarking on building a proper platform that is built with the peculiarities of Nigeria in mind, starting from the farmers. Then you aggregate them towards the cooperatives and maybe associations. And then once you do that, they have their bank account. It's almost like a limited liability company. They can then trade. They can even trade on their behalf. Then you then have the brokers, the capital market brokers, that can trade on behalf of flour mills, Nestle, and so on, So, and then you then have the export leg. Then the third aspect of that thematic is ecosystem development. And this one is a large issue because at the end of the day, once you put all these structures in place and Tade doesn't know what A is doing or B is doing, it's not an integrated approach. Then we have policy. Government is going through a whole lot of policy. I think McDonald of FMN mentioned the PFSU, which is being chaired by the vice president. So they're talking about strategic grain reserve, investing in infrastructure, and putting serious policies in place. Policies like position sizes. If you want to trade 5 metric tons of grains, you have to go through a registered marketplace. Let's even know what we are trading. Because if we do that, the data will flow naturally. Instead of everybody bypassing, these official platforms. Then the final one, which is typically the big elephant in the room, financing. We can't do much without having a financing structure that bridges the funding gap, because at the time the smallholder farmer is ready to sell, agro-processors may not be ready to buy. So there needs to be somebody that bridges that gap, So we will start by catalyzing that, which is the real trading really, on the platform. We'll start by catalyzing that. We need to have a platform that brings in financiers, investors, banks into that platform to bridge that gap. Once you have these 5 key elements, we are solid, and the NCS can then play a role for the government, in diversifying from this oil and gas and making sure that Nigeria hits its GDP target. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. I'm sure you're quite very passionate about what you are doing at the NCX. Thanks a lot. And of course, I like the perspective around de-risking the agribusiness through the NCX. Of course, the traditional one has always been the traditional insurance, whether offered by any insurance company or the one, being championed by government through NISA and all of that. Of course, a lot of issues, logistics issues, and so many things. But because of time, I just use the floor for the audience. If there is anyone that has any question to any of the member of the panel, you can just be specific and direct your question. I just use the floor quickly now to anyone with questions. Okay, thank you. Anyone with roving mic, please. Please feel free to direct your question to any of the member of the panel if you do want to do so.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. So my name is Shegun. I'm the founder of the Jebu Market. So in a nutshell, we just call ourselves Agri Supply Chain Operating System. So first, we actually have agricultural parks that we're running, which is almost like the agro-industrial zone. So we have large parks. So we're currently cultivating large-scale rice. That some will go to certain manufacturers, and some will also do some agro-processing. So so when you actually look at our approach, it's almost like a kind of collaborative system, where we actually, for example, now we split out the infrastructure that is supposed to be in the cultural park, which includes our irrigation system, solar powered, then our solar dehydrators, because the first park, phase one, almost 400 acres in Ijebu. So since the forest area, when we harvest our maize, we will not just use sun drying, so we use solar dehydrators. Then we actually have to have our warehouse also. So the kind of structure we have is, okay, some finance comes like a lease to own infrastructure system that is long-term, reduced rate. So we could just probably speak with a construction track and say, you know what, we need to have actually a combined warehouse and processing section where you have that, we split it over a long period. Same as the one we'll probably discuss also for some of the tractors, the mechanization, that because we can keep using the tractors over time. You see, there are times when I actually listen to these things and, okay, well, this thing has to be deployed to the small, older farmers. But in the practical sense, when you sit on ground, the tractor goes to go and work on that maybe 4 acres there. Then it needs to go another 50 kilometers to go to another distance. So when you look at all those things, it won't really work in the practical sense when you stand there in the forest, in the bush, and this is how these things are. So it's the reason why I spoke with someone and said, you know, what you're doing is actually what those farmers need, because the subsidies that you mentioned, the subsidies normally is supposed, you think, okay, to come from the government. But even from businesses itself, subsidies can come. So that is why you can actually say, okay, when you're running a business, you know that some of the things you put in will cover 60 to 70% of your cost. So when I have the tractors and the mechanized system within my farm, because we have another farm that we're running tomatoes, is meant for the company that does the ketchup in KFC and Burger King. The agronomists will just say, hello, sir. Some of those people came to borrow so and so from our farm, and they said they will return it back. We don't charge them. But if I actually have mechanized tractors in my place, currently now the farmers pay about 100,000 naira per hectare for you to actually use a tractor. I can, insofar as the tractor is on my farm and is doing so much, I can easily give it to them at 40,000 or 50,000. That's subsidy, but coming in a capitalistic way where it's still profitable, it's off the government's books, and we're actually operating that in this. So that is just how we are actually doing at the park there, where we actually split the financing. They will know that, okay, the other finance we need is probably from inputs, be it from my herbicides, pesticides. Now that also connects to the educational institution, because as I'm operating the farm, I'm also looking at, are there crops that actually prevent pests? Are there crops? And there are, because there was sometimes last year, a particular company actually engaged us to buy sorghum, maize, white sorghum and red sorghum, then maize for them. Because we actually, aside from supply chain, we also have large-scale cultivation. They sent someone to go and check the sorghum in a place called Gulu, not far from Lapai in Niger State. Yes, so the person got there, he ascertained it fine, so we moved like 2 trucks straight down to their warehouse in Lagos. But when he went to a place called Sokani, it's around Maraba, Bali local government in Taraba, the same person went. But he got there and he saw some stock of plant inside their bags. The guy now asked them that, this thing that why are you putting all these things in this thing? Say, Megida, look at this old place. You see ants? You don't see? Yeah, this is what we use. And those are things that can sit as biotechnology that you can actually, and these local things like that, they are still in those communities, but these elderly farmers that know about these things, they are dying off. And that's where the educational institution goes into all those things. Study why is this thing performing this way, and we can start selling those things also. So there are several concerns. Another major issue also, when you're actually mentioning the commodity exchange, because we also work with them. Yeah, we also work with them and this thing. Another thing is the metric system. You go to one part of the country, I want to buy. They'll tell you it's Washinand. You get to another place, they will tell you is Galvanising. A state like Kano State has around 4 different kinds of mudu. Just the state like Kano. So these things, there are several things we see on ground operating. But one thing I actually know that can really work well is if we support these agro-industrial parks like what we are doing, it's going to actually make those farmers around those territories much more efficient, because many of them, you say you're supporting them, this soil that they are using, by the time when this yield gives you 2 tons, this one will give you 1.5, this one will give you 4. So there are different realities into space. There's so much we can talk about, but let me just stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your contribution, very deep. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Any other person from the floor? Okay, sir. There's someone there.
Okay, thank you. My name is Dr. Joshua Obisheson. My question is, I have a question actually directed to Tony, NCX. You talked about the warehousing receipt system, and part of what you are doing, you talked about policy. I want to know how far you have gone in terms of, I know it's not you that will pass the bill or make it legal for us to trade that in Nigeria. So I want to know how far it has gone, and when are we looking at, that being effective in Nigeria? I hear a lot of being talked about, but when are we actually going to, make it happen? Okay, I'm an agribusiness manager with Stanbic IBTC Bank. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Joshua. So in terms of the law enabling the warehouse receipting system, it has been passed. That is contained in the Investment Securities Act 2025. So now, when a law is passed, it's one thing. Activating it and implementing it is another thing. My dream would be if the CBN governor suddenly wakes up and says, hey, all banks, you must now use warehouse receipt system. Because the idea is that once the commodity exchange issues a warehouse receipt, it becomes a collateral. On the back of that warehouse receipt is the name of the product, the quantity, and the quality. And there'll be other variables. So it becomes tradable. So the ideal would be they wake up and say, let's do this. But it wouldn't work. That's why I was mentioning the 5 key thematic areas, which we've just begun. This ISA was just recently passed, I think 3 months ago, and then SEC now needs to communicate that, and then there's a journey of implementation. That's why I was speaking to the infrastructure. We need warehouses, standardized warehouses. So because Dr. Joshua, you as an investor, you don't want to buy a warehouse receipting system and then the commodity exchange is telling you story, water has fallen on it, they stole half of it, or blah, blah, blah. No, nothing like that. So a warehouse, there are checklists, needs to be guarded, civil defense people. There needs to be, what do we call it, CCTV. The roof has to be in a certain way, aeration has to be in a certain way. It has to be, for some products, it has to be contained in hermetic bags. Like Shegun was mentioning the ant repellent. There are some bags that you store these things in. No ant can even enter. Any ant that enters is dead on arrival. So it's all those sort of standardization that we're now putting in place. When you look at the body language of the president, he's more of a market-driven person. He's not going to bring a hammer and hammer people and say, line up. So the market naturally would come on board once all these key things are in place. So that's my job, or the commodity exchange job. That is linked to the government. To start building the warehouses, bringing collateral managers on board, bringing warehouse operators on board, having the technology platform. He mentioned artificial intelligence, I believe, which means that, and then blockchain, which, like a ledger format, even if you sell the ledger balances, and gives you a new warehousing receipting system, you get, so you can imagine the level of technology that is involved. It's not just one laptop and 2 UX, UI, or front end. No. This is serious technology at a national security level. So it's going to take time. We've done the first pilot, which was funded by Design, which was funded by is it FCD or the British? I've forgotten. Yeah. The British Developmental. Exactly. Apologies. So it's a journey. The law has been passed. Our job now is to implement and naturally bring in market actors to come in. And thank you. Stanbic worked closely with the Nigeria Commodity Exchange. The first software that NCX used was actually built by Stanbic. And I believe, what's his name again? Atedo Peterside at that time. Yes. So if you ask him, he's a champion of Nigeria Commodity Exchange, one of the pioneers. So thank you, Dr. Joshua. Great answer. So just be watching out for NCX and the implementation program. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Dr. Joseph, and everyone for your contributions. Okay, sir, you have something? Okay. Perhaps the last one.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dipo Daudu. I work for a company called Tomato Juice Farming and Processing Limited. We're based in Kaduna. We farm tomato when it's season, and then we process it. We have a processing plant there. Then we brand it as well and sell as a branded product. I like the point you made on subsidy, which I think is very, very essential, because we find out that a lot of these smallholder farmers, right, they don't have access to funds. So what we do is we provide all input for them, right? Then we charge them very minimally on it. We have an agreed price at which we take off the product from them at the end of the season. Everything they produce in terms of tomato, we take it off them. During the wet season, we do soybeans and maize as well. That we take the portion where they used to settle the loan, and then the balance goes to them. And they are really very happy about it. But I think there is a lot more that can be done in terms of subsidy for them. Because personally, business-wise, we believe that they should be making a lot more than they are making, right? And if you look at what has been said in terms of food and nutrition security, if the government is taking it from that angle, right, that look, this is very, very essential, then I think the involvement of government should be a lot more serious than what we currently have. Now, having said that, to Tony, I have a question. How close is the NCX to these farmers in terms of taking their product when they've harvested so that it doesn't get spoiled? What more are you doing in terms of subsidy for them? You talked about subsidy on interest financing cost. What of insurance? Can the government support them on that? There are several subsidies that can be done. Like, can you give access, road access, for example, to them so that their goods can be easily transported? Several forms of subsidy can actually be done for these people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Depo. Tomato Juice is one of those companies that have done extremely well, and I have to commend you guys. We've been following you guys, whatever you guys are doing, in ensuring that your business operation is still up is a fantastic model. And from what I hear you say, the way you guys handle smallholder farmers is also a fantastic model. When I got into NCX in Gashua in Yobe State, we did a similar model. It's still existing today. You realize that smallholder farmers, when we pay them 25% of the price, the market price of their product, they earned more than when they sold it outrightly during harvest. You begin to see the structure of the middlemen. During harvest, let's say a product is worth 1,000 naira market price or at the exchange. Middlemen are buying it from them at 100 naira. Why? Because of the post-harvest issues. So the first point of this subsidy, for Nigeria Commodity Exchange, like I mentioned, the fifth aspect of that thematic area is the financing, that bridge financing. Now, when we bring that 25%, it might not look like a subsidy. You know, I like the way you define subsidy. It's almost like assistance. But it is. We pay them because that's the value that they would have gotten in the market at that point in time. So we are basically saving them 75% of the market value as at today. And guess what? They store this product in 3 months' time. The market price further increases. And they sell it. And they return back our 25% to us. No interest, nothing. Just give us our money back. We sell, we deduct, and we give them. So they enjoy that model. The warehouse is filled up. It has, currently they're harvesting rice. They're storing rice there at the moment. You know, so it's one of those subsidy aspects. Now, through the Vice President Office, who's managing the PFS SU, we're also doing the guarantee minimum price, you know, at the farm gate. So even if you want to sell it at 100%, we'll pay you a guaranteed minimum price. Now, the reason why that idea came up was the fact that, you know, government gave flour mills and co. They gave them a waiver to import certain grains, you know. So you see some smallholder farmers complaining, you know, which means now at the farm gate, we have to go back and sort of repair that distortion. That distortion needed to happen because, again, middlemen again, you know, held the country to ransom, which means that no government would see rice, a bag of rice, 100K, going towards 150. No, but it's not possible. You know, so they needed to do something to sort of break that market system. All this that we're discussing is all about market system and finding what fits. You see CBN, the FX market is another market system. You see what they've done in ensuring that the parallel and the official, that there's no massive margin. If there's massive margin, then the arbitrage will come in. And that's what people were using to mint money in the past. So reforming the market system is very important. Once you reform it, if government now puts 1 billion naira or 1 trillion, it sticks, you know. Insurance, we can't do commodity exchange without insurance. Insurance is a is a primary fact, you know. So just rest assured that we'll do a lot for the smallholder farmers, a whole lot.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you. I'm sure we can continue all day. Okay, now, let me respect myself. The only lady that wants to say something since we started today, I said the last one the other time, but I'm going to entertain you. So please, let's give her a mic so that you can just make a contribution. You can then take the closing shot from the members of the panel.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, my name is Engineer Carolina. I'm sincerely enjoying the conversation. My question goes to two of the panelists. When you talked about issue of data gathering and also bringing the local farmers together. So what happened? Is there any platform put in place to bring the small scale farmers together in ensuring that the right data that are being gathered? Because if you look at it generally, there are two sectors in Nigeria right now that is like a blooming, have the right investment platform for everybody to be able to plug into, which is the agro-business and energy in the industry. So these are the two major lifelines for our nation today that anybody can easily plug into, and both as employee, employer, or investor has a wide range of bringing the nation into the darkness or whatever the state we are into now. But having the right data platform can easily give us the right direction to be able to know, okay, which area to be able to identify the risk and the mitigation techniques. So I don't know if there is anything in that regard when it comes to this small scale business. What are the platforms that have been put together? Because we know if you go around especially in the rural area, we have a lot of these small scale in the, farmers who are trying to find a way to plunge or to be able to make ends of a living. And when we talk about the storage facility and thereabout, they have the issues. Their issues are enormous. But is there anything put in place to be able to checkmate that and have the accurate data being gathered and put the right analysis? Maybe because I'm a risk manager, so I kind of trying to think through, it's one thing for you to invest, one thing for you to be able to understand the risk involved and mitigation factors. Thank you.
Thank you. Felicia.
All right, thank you so much, Engineer Caroline, right? Thank you so much. Okay, in data science, there's a topic very interesting that we do entertain, and we say that the quantity of data gathered in the last maybe 10 years is more than the data we have gathered in the last maybe 70, 80 years. So, while we are recognize that data gathering is a challenge, especially in agribusiness, I can tell you that there's a good news that gradually some people are rising up to that responsibility. The other time we mentioned that farmers should come together or smallholders should come together to form cooperatives. Some cooperatives are now putting in place a system to get the data of the farmers and what they produce and their output, their input, and some of them are available right now. That's one. Secondly, we have some off-takers that are already bringing in software platform for their growers to put in their data. I know of Polos Africa and some other guys in aquaculture that for all the people that they off-take for, they already have an app that they just need to download. And as you are producing what you are producing on your farm, you continue to put on a daily basis your records into those apps. So at the back end, they can harvest all that and tell you that, okay, this is what you did last year, this is what you are doing now, this is where you should be going, this should be your profitability, this is your profitability. So those apps are coming together, I can tell you. And we just need, all of us in the room and people that are not here, we just need to do more of that. A lot of, IT, technology have to come into that to gather those data. The other time we were with the Permanent Secretary and Minister, Honorable Minister for Federal Ministry of Livestock Development, and when that ministry came on board, not too long ago, last year, that is one of the things that they are also focusing on. And it was a heated discussion that how do we gather the data of all these people? We have broken, our sectors to organized sectors and unorganized sectors. The unorganized sectors, the organized sectors are guys that you can easily see their businesses, you can probably they are even PLC, you can look at their numbers on the internet, but the unorganized are very many, you don't even know what they do, they don't even have a connection with you. So gradually we are working to bring them from unorganized to semi-organized and to being organized. So it's the work of all of us, but of course on the side of the government, the MDS needs to drive that because a lot of times when we pull out data there, you see especially people from the public sector say, where do you get that data from? How are you sure it is right? Well, if it is not right, we are yours. So, but we are getting there, and I think NCS is also doing a lot as per that. Thank you.
Thank you, Felicia. Just on a passing note, Tade, in 30 seconds, your passing shot for the audience.
Okay, so 30 seconds. It's firstly to thank everyone for listening and to continue to ask the ABC as well as every participant, whether government or private sector, to actively engage with a view to building the agri-industry in Nigeria. There's a lot of opportunity. It's almost limitless, the size of the pie available. All we need to do is make sure we put the round pots in the round holes to get the best out of the industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Tade. Ambassador, 30 seconds.
So first of all, thank you everyone. I'm happy to be here. And Of course, I would also reconfirm that the opportunity we see in the sector is very big one. The opportunity we see in people working in this sector is a very big one. And we are looking forward to work together to be part of this big improvement and success story that we hope that we reach to within the sector.
Thank you, Bassem.
Yes, if Basep is seeing opportunities, I must be able to see more opportunities. All right, so yeah, just for me to encourage everyone to please double down and take more interest in agribusiness. I joined the industry about 20 years ago. 3 years into the industry, I'm still having my highs in going to banking and going to this and that. But at some point in time, I attended some event, and that event opened up my mind to the vast opportunity that exists. And from that time, I begin to double down and begin to see more opportunities. So Nigeria has a lot of arable land, and not only that, vast fertile soil. There are not many countries of the world that have vast arable land and at the same time vast fertile soil. We have both, and that tells us that we have immense opportunity to do better and to produce food for our people, and at the same time to be actively involved in trade, connecting that agriculture, industrializing it, putting values to things, and at the same time assessing market. Thank you.
Thanks, Felicia. Tony?
Thank you so much. It's been a very lovely discussion. I just want to say that agriculture is a business. It's a serious business. Today we are doing 50 trillion in GDP from agric. And with the small opportunities we've identified around post-harvest losses, I think we can add another 20 trillion to it, you know. And as a nation, we should begin to engage properly in that business so that we have food sovereignty, food security, and we have national pride. And I'm sure that agric, we can scale very quickly, and we can even drive export, you know, beyond the current oil and gas export that we depend on. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. And I think for me, it's just to again re-echo all what has been said, and of course summarize it from the point of view of the fact that we don't have any reason as a country not to be able to feed ourselves. It's a shame if we can't feed ourselves with what God has blessed us with, and the kind of, whether it's human resources, whether the arable land that we've spoken about, and all of that. So in each of the segments that we find ourselves as practitioners, let's make sure we do our best and connect very well with a view to making sure that we actually lift this sector, this industry, to get to where it should be. You talk about American farmers, you talk about European farmers, they don't have two ways. You talk about South African farmers, they don't have two ways. We move our South African farmers in Nigeria and Kwara State, you go to Shonga, doing big business in poultry, right? So we can do it with that determination as a country. And if you miss anything at all for all what I've been discussed today, don't forget that you can be a big boy in BI and still be a farmer like Shegun. So you want to know how he's able to do it, just connect with him. You see Shegun, you know, maybe in a jet flying to the UK, you just is somebody that's, you know, based in London all his life, but he's a farmer, practicing farmer. Okay? And of course, there's been that learning opportunity that has been offered at no cost by US Soil. You want to upskill, get new talents, just see the doctor over there and make sure you get yourself enrolled. Thank you very much for listening, and I'm sure we're going to connect again another time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this engaging panel. This photo session, please, before we have the vote of Thank you very much. To give the closing remarks, I'd like to invite Joy Lawal, consultant with the council. A round of applause, please.
Good afternoon, all. I believe that this has been time well spent, especially given the insightful conversations. First, I would like to thank our panelists for the conversation they had earlier. At least one of the key takeaways from me was that agriculture is actually the foundation, and industry is a driver of ensuring that we're able to achieve what we want to achieve as a nation when it comes to agriculture. We would like to thank our sponsors, Mantrac, USEC, as well as SRS, which is Seattle Residents, for hosting us today. And would like to thank every one of you for joining us this morning. The conversation has only just begun. We would continue this conversation as a council, and we would definitely get a lot of you involved in these conversations as we begin to look towards the next steps on how to move this forward, ensuring that these conversations are not just heard in this room, but in the right places it should be heard. We would like to thank you once again for coming, our members who are here, who graced us this morning with their presence, and for everyone who came for this event. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you at future ABC events. Food is served. It was meant to be breakfast, but I think now it will be brunch. So please stay behind and have something on the house. Thank you.